HCG stands for human chorionic gonadotropin. It's actually the hormone of pregnancy. And so with a very tiny dose of that, your body sort of allows you to tap into fat stores. So when you're trying to do calorie restriction, instead of going into what a lot of people refer to as starvation mode, where your cortisol goes up and it decreases the effectiveness of your free T3, the active form of thyroid, and your body sort of protects that fat from a survival standpoint. So you would burn some muscle and lose some bone density before you'd ever tap into that fat. But the HCG allows your body to tap into that fat.
Welcome to the Exercise Is Health podcast, where we're talking about exercise, health, and the interconnectedness of the two. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we will be coming to you every single week from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise Is Health podcast. We're your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we are coming to you from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg in Schaumburg, Illinois. Now, at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, we believe your health is your most valuable asset. Your health is one of the biggest influencers of the quality and quantity of time that you have. And while there are many aspects of health, our expertise is exercise. Exercise has been proven time and again to not only improve your health, but also increase your longevity and improve your quality of life. But we know that exercise is not the only piece of the puzzle. And that is why we are bringing you a phenomenal rock star guest today, none other than Dr. Gregory Seaman of ThriveMD in Schaumburg, Illinois. Dr. Seaman attended medical school at Michigan State before he moved to Massachusetts to complete his internship and anesthesia residency at Bay State Medical Center and Brigham and Women's Hospital. He practiced anesthesia for 7 years before pursuing his passion for preventive medicine, as he always had a strong personal interest in health optimization and seeking out education experiences not offered as part of the traditional medical training. Through his journey, Dr. Seaman has become proficient in many areas of preventative and anti-aging medicine, utilizing IV vitamin and nutrient therapies, platelet rich plasma, intramuscular vitamin injections, medical weight loss, bioidentical hormone replacement, as well as other cutting-edge technology and natural therapies. His true passion lies in getting patients excited about their health again. Dr. Seaman, thank you for being here and welcome to our show.
Yes, thank you very much. It's very nice to be here.
Right on. Well, we're ecstatic to have you on. We've been really excited about this interview to talk about more about what you do at your practice. And, you know, I was thinking before, like a couple of days ago, just thinking about our journey as a business. I remember it must have been when we first started out, like 2014, okay? And Julie's like, I got in touch with the doctor. I got in touch with the doctor via email, and he said he's willing to meet with us. And like, I'm 26 at the time. Like, she was like 24 at the time. We're like, oh my gosh, the doctor's willing to meet with us? No way! And we went, and it was you. We met with you, and it was so cool. And so it's been just a really neat journey since then. And so we really appreciate you meeting with us again. And yeah.
And now you're our neighbor. So
exactly.
A lot of our listeners come and know our location here in Schaumburg, and Dr. Seaman's practice, ThriveMD, is just in the building behind us. So
yes.
The world has brought us back together, which is so cool.
Yeah, definitely. Well, tell us more about yourself, because, you know, I'm really interested in, one, how you got into medicine to begin with, but then two, this transition from, you know, anesthesia to, like your bio says, health optimization. Because on the one hand, anesthesia is I don't want to say like not health promoting, but it's essentially there to make sure that people can kind of get through surgery, okay? Where this is like a complete 180 with that. So tell us about that journey.
Yes, it's kind of, with medicine in general, it was sort of an experience with my own health and knee surgeries that I had through high school, just the doctors and the people that I met in the medical system that way. And then once I got into medicine, I sort of decided to go into anesthesia. I like being hands-on and I guess having some control over how things go. And then once I did anesthesia for a few years, I sort of started to realize that a lot of medicine is reactive. You know, we wait until something breaks and then put it back together or do the best we can at that point. And I always thought it should be more proactive. You know, if people treat wellness, then perhaps they wouldn't be in the OR, at least not as often. So I've always had an interest in preventative medicine, and at that point I think it was just referred to as anti-aging, so aging well, living your best life at any age really. And so I finally just decided that was my true passion, and life's too short to do something you're not 100% involved with. So I kind of started the ThriveMD company. Yeah, it was pretty small in the beginning. I remember that meeting you guys when we were at the old office, and I was in an actual closet at a chiropractor's office. So
We started in a closet too. So.
So yeah, it's fun to get people excited about their health, and a lot of people have sort of given up on feeling better. You know, they hear the old adage that you're getting older, and we are all getting older, but you can still, like I said, live your best life at any age.
Well, even just the name of your company, like Thrive, that idea is not like be healthy, not do enough to get by and feel good in old age. But when I think of thriving, I'm thinking like abundance, like
right.
like over the top health of just feeling phenomenal. And that seems to be what you're doing with your practice. So that's really cool. So talk to us about that. What kind of things do you offer at your practice? I know I've definitely experienced some of the offerings that you have from the nutritional IVs and the vitamin intramuscular injections and whatnot. And
right.
Those, I've seen tremendous results in myself with those. So tell us more about kind of what you do at your practice.
Yeah, so when we started out, there was, I guess, four main things. We did hormone replacement therapy, we did platelet rich plasma therapy, medical weight loss, and then the IV vitamins and nutrients and minerals. So each of those has kind of expanded, and a lot of it's gotten more into mitochondrial function and trying to promote healthy mitochondrial function. The mitochondria are kind of the power plants of the cell, so there's a lot of data to suggest that that's basically what aging is breakdown or inefficient functioning of the mitochondria. So we do a lot to support that. Over the years, we've expanded into some of those areas more than others, now dealing with the stem cells and ozone therapy, a lot of different IV therapies. There's a lot of different protocols they're using across the country and even other places in the world that really can zero in on a specific problem or even just help the mitochondria function better.
I want to jump back to one of the points you said. You were saying that the big thing that they believe is aging is the changes in the mitochondria function, or is it the number of mitochondria? But how do you affect that? Is it through the original 4 services that you had mentioned, or have you guys had to expand to address the mitochondrial changes?
We've sort of expanded in that direction. There are a couple main theories on aging. One has to do with telomere length. One has to do with oxygen extraction from the air you're breathing in, and some of them, a lot of them have to do with mitochondrial breakdown. And it's sort of one of those things where if you don't use it, you lose it. That's kind of part of what the high intensity interval training is based on, taking them all to the max so they're all stressed and then letting them recover quickly and then doing it again, because your body will maintain the ones you have. There's some debate whether or not you can ever get more, but you can certainly slow down the loss of them.
So with the services that you're offering, which of those focuses on the mitochondrial aspect of things? Is it something, do you use the stem cells with that? Is that an ozone thing? Is that the nutritional IVs?
Yeah, so it's a little bit all of them. Just in general, health is going to come down to mitochondrial functioning optimally. But really, if I was to zero in on one, it would be the ozone. That's kind of the idea, is we're getting more oxygen into the blood in a reactive form, which gets into the mitochondria and helps them produce energy aerobically, so with oxygen.
Sure.
They're always going to be functioning either anaerobically or aerobically, and aerobically is much better. It's more efficient and less waste products.
Sure. So what kind of patients do come in to seek out the ozone? And what kind of issues does that help address?
Yeah, it's interesting because, as I said, when we started, it was sort of the idea was working with healthy people that wanted to be healthier or live their best life at any age well. And then in pursuit of that, we started to do some things like the ozone therapy. And then people that have these chronic diseases or problems that they haven't been able to get much help from with traditional medicine seek us out for the ozone therapy specifically. So we get people that need help to get in the front door, and then Olympic athletes or professional athletes. So across the spectrum, which we really enjoy that.
That's
variety.
Really cool.
If the ozone therapy is kind of, it almost sounds like it's kind of pushing oxygen into the blood so that it can fuel the
Right.
mitochondria.
Right.
So does exercise help with that too?
It sure does.
Yes. Okay. I was like, oh my gosh, it sounds like exercise. So do most of the people that seek out ozone therapy are they currently exercising? So this is an addition, or are they currently severely maybe under exercise, meaning they're not really getting their heart rate up. They're not getting that oxygen bolus, I guess we could say.
Right. Yeah.
Or is again across the spectrum?
It is. It's sort of across the spectrum. We always, it's amazing how many of the things we do supplement-wise or anything is really to mimic the effects that your body gets from exercising.
Wow.
Really?
Very neat.
And they really talked about that I was at the American Academy of Anti-Aging conference in Las Vegas, and they were talking about that too. Exercise is still, it gives you all of these benefits and more.
That's awesome.
And we try to mimic them with other things, but exercise is really key.
Very cool.
Awesome.
That's awesome. I
That's cool
love
to hear.
that. Yeah, I really like that.
So what does it look like when people are getting ozone therapy? Like, do they go in a magical box and it's like they breathe in special air, or what's that like? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so there are some different ways to get ozone. Really, the only thing you can't do with it is breathe it, because it's irritating to the
really?
lungs. Yeah.
Interesting.
So we have several different ways. We have a pretty unique piece of equipment called a HOCATT sauna, which it's an ozone sauna, but it's combined with 9 different other modalities other than ozone. One of them is carbonic acid, so that dilates the pores and increases circulation, and so you absorb more ozone at a lower concentration, which isn't irritating to the skin. So that would be one way, and then we do insufflation, so rectal insufflation, things like that. We drink ozone water. I personally drink ozone water daily. We always have it over in the clinic. Yeah.
Huh.
And then the most common way, I guess, would be the blood ozone. So that involves starting an IV, and then we drain blood into the bag that we put on a towel on the floor. We drain about 230 to 250 cc's of blood. We then clamp that line, hang the bag up, and inject the ozone gas, which is a gas, into the bag. So we get the ozone from an ozone generator that takes medical grade oxygen, O2, and breaks it down into O1, and when it comes back together, about 10% of it is O3, which is actually ozone. So anytime you're talking about ozone, you're talking about an ozone and oxygen mixture. It's never pure ozone, nor would you want it to be. So we inject that into the blood. It reacts with the red blood cells before it gets to the top of the blood in the bag, and then we mix that for a few minutes. It turns bright red, and we give it back to you.
Okay.
Wow.
We very often combine that with ultraviolet blood irradiation therapy, so it goes through a UVB machine on the way back, and that ultraviolet therapy works synergistically with ozone to provide the best benefits and immune system and cleaning of the blood.
Wow.
That's really cool.
So this is just a funny story. Some of my clients that come here, they're here and I direct them on their exercises, but they have to do the work, right? And so sometimes we joke around like, hey, I'm here paying you, you should be doing the work. You're the trainer. Right. And I always had said, well, wouldn't it be so funny if people paid me and we switched blood? I worked out and got all the stuff, got the healthy blood, and then we just switch it, and that's the service. You wouldn't have to do the exercise or the work. So this is almost like the step between, you're taking blood out, kind of manipulating it to create some health benefits, and then you go back to them. So I was just thinking oh my gosh, I've talked to my clients about that. That's so funny.
Yes, it's basically taking your blood out, and then we do work on it. It's kind of like the HOCATT therapy. When somebody's in the HOCATT sauna and the carbonic acid comes out, it increases the circulation, so they're burning extra calories without really any effort. They're kind of sitting there, but the effect that the carbonic acid has on their system causes them to burn more calories.
Very neat.
Yeah.
Now, when somebody goes through an ozone therapy, let's say the blood replacement one, or what was that one called?
Yeah, where we would draw the blood out and put ozone with the blood.
Yeah. So if somebody goes through that, is there a recovery time that is okay, don't exercise for 24 hours after, or is it all right, now you're supercharged, you're good to go? What kind of response do people's bodies usually have to that?
Yeah, sort of some of each again, I guess. It's, we always tell people that we can't tell them exactly what to expect from the ozone, because basically what it's doing is giving your cells energy. So what your cells do with that energy is going to determine how you feel. If there's a high load of toxins, they're probably going to detox, and you could actually feel worse. That usually looks like tired, and that passes, and then people usually sleep really well and feel much better the next day. Once they've done it a few times and they've sort of caught up with clearing of toxins, people generally feel much better.
Awesome.
And there really isn't any period of time where you need to wait. We've had people that come in there and then we get a message or an email that they crush their personal best on their
That's awesome.
on their workout.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what kind of symptoms would lead somebody to say to search out ozone? Or, is it they've kind of run through the gamut of everything else and they're like, I don't know what to do. Somebody threw out this ozone word. I'm going to look into it. Or are there like clear indications that, yeah, you may be a candidate for some ozone therapy?
Well, yeah, some of each. I mean, we have some people that come in, as I mentioned, and they're healthy. They just want to maintain that health or be healthier. One of the interesting parts is that we all have a sample size of one. We know how we feel, and that's probably changed over the last 5 to 10 years, and we just figure that's aging or something. But you don't necessarily know how somebody else your same age feels. And we've had people that we work with at, 30, 50, 70, and a 70-year-old, I think he wrote a review, something about, you might ask why I would do this at 70, and he says, well, now I feel like I'm 50. So that's kind of the goal, is always feeling better. And it's not really something that there would be a list of symptoms for. I mean, some people with symptoms, like you said, that can't find help anywhere else. It's almost like a last-ditch effort, if you will.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be like that. In other countries, it's much more common. It's almost the first-line thing.
Interesting.
And another question I always get is, if they can only do it once, or they're only going to do it once or a couple times, is it worth doing? And my answer is always yes.
Sure.
If you think of it sort of as a biological age, and as we age, that number increases due to the variety of things, toxins in the environment, foods that have toxins in them, water, air, all of those things. We can sort of back that up a bit. We sort of reverse that aging a little bit. And even if it's only 3 years, there's not really a good way to measure that, but it just sort of cleans the body. So even if you were to do it once or twice, it would be helpful.
That's really neat. And then is there a typical, let's say somebody comes in and they're like, hey, I'll do, whatever you say. Is there a typical frequency? Is it a once a week thing? Is it a once a month thing for people? If they're like, what, this sounds awesome, I want to maintain my health for as long as possible. What's a typical frequency that somebody would do that?
Yeah, it sort of depends on a variety of factors. What else they have going on, how clean their diet is, how much they're exercising,
Sure.
definitely. There's a lot of other things. So that's what people always want to know. And we sort of, we do a lot of blood work, lab work. We do saliva labs, different labs. But I always tell people that the real indicator of how we're doing is you.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people you are the world's foremost authority on you.
Sure, yeah.
So I look at these labs and, we use them for safety, obviously, to make sure they're not getting too much of something or too low somewhere else. But really the best indicator of how well the therapy is going is by how the patient's feeling.
Very neat.
So we have some people that have been coming in now once a week. Say if they start to feel like they're getting sick, or people are sick at home or work or something, they may come in an extra time or do a different therapy on that day. But a lot of people once a week. Some people end up stretching that out. We have people that come in every day, and people that we see about once every 6 weeks, or just come in when they feel like they need it. So
Sure.
it's, again, kind of spans the gamut.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So in your practice, you're commonly seeing, just to confirm this, like people that are, well above 70, and people that are high-end athletes, and younger people as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's awesome.
On any given day, yes, all the way from high school athletes or people that are sick. I mean, I think our youngest patient right now is 10.
Yeah.
Wow, nice.
And then we have people well into the 80s.
That's awesome. Yeah, and your place has just a phenomenal energy about it. Like I've been in probably 4 or 5 times for the nutritional IVs, and every time I'm there, there's always people there. They're smiling. There's good music playing. It's a really nice vibe about your place. So I can definitely see. I mean, services aside, I can see why people keep coming back, because there's definitely like I said, a good vibe about the place. So that's good stuff.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's something that we've kind of strived for. We do have people that are sick, that are dealing with sort of chronic diseases. Some people that they've basically been told there's not much we have to offer you, and we want to make it a good experience. The mind is a very powerful thing. So being in a positive mindset when you're getting therapy, or even just throughout your daily life, is really important. So we value that.
Definitely.
I want to ask another question about, maybe this would be across the gamut of different therapies, but maybe ozone as well. But do you deal a lot with people, I mean, obviously aging, maybe just staying healthy, but also people that have those chronic ailments that might not be able to be cured. And if you do, which ones are they? And would it technically be like a treatment, or it just keeps them as healthy as possible so that they're, living the best they can with these diseases or conditions?
Yeah, so we do deal with lots of unusual symptoms, things from fibromyalgia, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, a lot of people complaining of brain fog, a lot of people that just don't feel like they're performing at their peak, and they're wondering if there are other answers. We do a lot of unusual testing, looking for things like mold, tick-borne illnesses. A lot of people would call it Lyme. There's a lot of other ones that are involved there. Heavy metal problems, root canals, or dental work issues that are affecting their overall health. So we look for a lot of these things. When someone comes in, we sort of we meet with them, talk about their specific case, and then we give them options. We can do things that are going to help them. Like the ozone's kind of an easy one because it's giving people more oxygen. So that helps their body to be better at whatever it is it's trying to do. If we want to look more specifically for what exactly the problem is, that we get into some of that other testing. And it kind of depends on how the people want to proceed. Or some people start out just doing like the ozone, some vitamins, we put them on some supplements, and they start to feel a little better, and then their interest sort of takes them to looking for the answer. What is the root cause? And we've been pretty successful with some people that have had a hard time for years, so it's very encouraging.
I don't know, I was thinking, one thing we deal with here a lot is individuals that want to be active, but they have a potential orthopedic issue that's holding them back. Like, I want to be able to get my cardio health back and my muscle strength back, but every time I do it, I have this orthopedic flare-up, or I don't know how to use my body and muscles right. I would imagine that, if they weren't finding someone like us, or they weren't wanting to do this type of work, that could be a really cool option, because as you said, they're kind of getting some of those exercise benefits that exercise would give them, but not have to do some of the movement and work that's involved with that.
Right.
That's interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, that's really neat. So I know this time of year, it's big for people that have started their New Year's resolutions, or maybe finding that they're maybe having a little bit of difficulty with them, or they're not getting the results that they would have expected, like within the first month of their exercise program or their eating program or whatnot, specifically from a weight loss perspective. And one of the big things that you do at your clinic is the medically guided weight loss. So can you tell us more about that and what that program's like and what offerings are involved?
Right. Yeah, I think, a lot of people, nutrition is probably the single most important part to living a good life. It's not what we spend most of our time on, but it's definitely a key, one of the foundational pieces of living a good life. And so we do have a nutrition and lifestyle coach on staff at Thrive. And we, talk to a lot of people about a lot of different diets. A lot of people get lost in that, like their modified paleo or, all these different diets. And I always tell them, well, let's start by just eating a little better, don't eat things that come in a box, and try to cut down on fast food. And a lot of people seem like they'll do whatever it takes. They're just not sure what that is. And one diet that we've had great success with is the HCG diet. So the HCG stands for human chorionic gonadotropin. It's actually the hormone of pregnancy. And so with a very tiny dose of that, your body sort of allows you to tap into fat stores. So when you're trying to do calorie restriction, instead of going into what a lot of people refer to as starvation mode, where your cortisol goes up and it decreases the effectiveness of your free T3, the active form of thyroid, and your body sort of protects that fat from a survival standpoint. So you would burn some muscle and lose some bone density before you'd ever tap into that fat. But the HCG allows your body to tap into that fat. So it's a low-calorie diet combined with the HCG. And a lot of people think your body's, you're starving your body or whatever, but really your body gets the rest of what it needs from stores, which is the idea.
Interesting.
So when someone's on that diet, we know that they're burning fat because we use the ketone strips. Ketones are just a byproduct of fat metabolization. So we see those in the urine, and we also monitor them on the scale. We have a body fat scale. It uses bioimpedance to know that we're not only losing weight, because that's what everybody says, but I think what everybody means is fat. They want to lose fat.
Right. So what does that entail exactly? Like HCG, like you just go there and say you're on HCG, or is there like some kind of therapy that they're getting when they come and see you?
Yeah, so somebody that comes in and has an interest in weight loss, or if they specifically know it's the HCG diet they want to do, we have a book that we put together. It's got 25 pages or so about the diet, sort of where it came from, how it evolved, and then 100 pages of recipes. There's some other things in there, like a weight tracker where they write their weight in daily and the things that they ate in daily, and that can be helpful if the weight loss stalls. We can look back and see the things that were changed. So they would basically come in and have a meeting. We'd go over, obviously any other health concerns, and then to start the HCG, we usually do HCG by injection. So it's a subcutaneous injection, a very small needle, like an insulin needle, if people have seen those before, and it goes right under the skin. It's an injection that we would teach you how to do, and you would do once a day at your house. Mm-hmm. So you just keep the HCG in the refrigerator, and in the morning when you wake up, usually that's the best time. You just take the injection and go on with your day. If people are really concerned about that part, there are other ways. There are sublingual drops you can take, or there's even a nasal spray that we can get. I do prefer the injections just because it sort of eliminates one variable. Anything you're taking orally, or even if it's sublingual, one of the first concerns is absorption. You're not supposed to eat or drink anything right before or after it, and so if you're not absorbing the HCG, sure, that would be a problem.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Interesting. Is there ever any concern of people thinking, well, if a little bit is good, a lot of it must be better if they're doing it on their own? Or do you keep things, how do you make sure that things stay tightly regulated with that? And people understand that, hey, if you're going to be trusted to do this on your own as a kind of medical process, you got to stay strict to this. And I know you want to lose a lot of weight and you want it off as quickly as possible, but there's a process to that. Is there a lot of patient education on that part?
There is. The book that I talked about kind of gives them an idea, lays it out for them, what a typical day will look like when they're supposed to eat their meals, roughly. It's basically 2 meals and 2 snacks in a day, and you want to be done eating several hours before bed. I usually tell people roughly by 7 o'clock you want to be all done eating for the day. So it kind of lays it out. It gives them an idea. There's some calorie counting methods in there. And it is, as I mentioned, low calorie. So it's roughly a 500 calorie a day diet. There have been variations on that. There are some people with more muscle mass that go up to 700 calories. It's kind of unique in the way that it works for so many people that have struggled for a long time with weight loss in general.
That's very interesting.
So what is the normal response that patients talk about? Number one, I want to ask you about experience. Like, are they starving all the time? What's their energy like? Are they allowed to work out? So what is it like living on the HCG diet? What's it? HCG diet. What's that like?
Yes, so it's in the beginning, as you probably imagine, it can be tough. Your body genuinely withdraws from the carbohydrates and sugars. It's not a no-carb diet, but it is a low-carb diet, and it's certain types of carbohydrates. For example, you can have apples on the diet, but you can't juice that apple. If you juice that apple, the blood sugar spike is much more abrupt than if you eat the apple. The fiber in the apple blunts that absorption of sugar, so if you just juice it, you're just getting the sugar, basically. So in the first few days, a person often goes through that withdrawal. They start burning ketones for fuel instead of sugars and carbohydrates. And once they get past that, in general, people feel much better, myself included. Just feel like think more clearly, sleep better. It's kind of the whole idea behind the keto diet.
Sure, yeah.
I bet these first couple days are probably pretty tough for people. I mean, I've gone on to the keto diet, and I remember for about 2 weeks, I wanted to eat everything in my eyesight. But after you got past that, you felt fine. And it really was interesting because I thought, I don't eat that many carbs. I'm not addicted to sugar. Until you actually try to stop, then you realize I'm like an addict searching for my fuel here. Is crazy. So with that diet, even if it's not like this is the keto diet, I'm sure people still have to go through that process of, okay, let's get your body not dependent on sugar and carbohydrates, and use some other type of fuel, which is what we want to do. We want to be using fat for fuel if that's what you want to be losing. So that's really cool.
Exactly. Yes. You never knew how good a cracker looked until you went keto, right?
Exactly.
So I always I tell people it's kind of like when I was a kid, we used wood to heat our house. So you realize pretty quickly that if you stuff the furnace full of paper, it burns up to 92 degrees and it's gone in 10 minutes, you know. And if you put a piece of hardwood on there, it burns at 68 degrees all night. So, you know, that hardwood is definitely the way to go. And that's kind of the way that I think of it with fats. It's just a more steady, good source of energy. If you're eating these sugars, they make you feel lethargic. Carbohydrates, they make you feel lethargic, and then your body craves them just because they're addicting, but also because it's trying to get that quick burst of energy again that you get from the carbs.
Sure. Yeah. Very neat. Now you said there's 2 meals that go along with the HCG diet, and how many snacks or no snacks?
Two snacks, which would be 1 of 4 fruits.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So then it's is part of the success of the HCG diet also tapping into a fasting kind of approach, like an intermittent fasting kind of approach, or does that play into the diet at all?
A bit of it. I mean, it's a low calorie diet, so and there should be a good stretch between the last meal of the day and the first meal of the next day. I'm a big fan of the intermittent fasting too. I think there's a lot of benefit there, and that's something that we have some people transition to that after they do the HCG. The HCG isn't specifically for fasting and doesn't turn on all of those things like the autophagy in the cells that intermittent fasting does. But it's really good for getting started.
Okay, wonderful. And so with the HCG, and then you would maybe recommend after they get off that, then transitioning into more of an intermittent fasting, or the reverse.
No, I think that's probably the best way to go. The HCG is great for weight loss, and one of the biggest things it does is it gives people some insight into the fact that they still have some control over their health. A lot of people, you know, have tried weight loss multiple times, and it's been miserable and unsuccessful, may even sort of backfired with them gaining more weight than they were when they started. So the HCG can be really empowering from that standpoint. People kind of feel like, hey, I still have some say in what goes on here, which, you know, we've had a lot of people that's life-changing for them. And then they want to see what else is there, what other options.
What's the timeline with the HCG diet, or is it different for everyone?
Well, it kind of depends on how much weight you want to lose. Our most common would be a 6-week diet. We also offer a 3-week, a 4-week, and then really an 8-week diet, which we don't often talk about, but originally it was done as an 8-week diet. It's the process. The most difficult part, as I mentioned, is the beginning, the first few days when you're getting into ketosis. And then once you get there, it's just about maintaining that. So again, I say it's kind of like gold mining. The difficult part is to get down to the gold, and then you want to maintain that. You want to, maximize that time there. So we do have people that have done more than one cycle. Usually it's best to take a month off between to sort of let the body reset. And it kind of depends on how much weight a person wants to lose.
And then once somebody, let's say they finish the 6 weeks, do then they receive guidance on staying in a state of ketosis, or do you want them to kind of fluctuate out of a state of ketosis? How does that kind of follow-up work, whether they're going to come back for a second round or not?
Yeah, it sort of depends. They're probably going to come out of ketosis. We do have the nutritionists that some people elect to work with. Some people think, that's great, I got a jump start and I'll be good by myself. Sometimes we see them again, sometimes we don't. Sometimes they've made the changes. They see things like, how small an amount of food you actually need to eat to feel pretty good throughout the day.
Sure.
I mean, I think in general, that's one of the problems with weight in our society today is, in history, it's traditionally been that exercise was unavoidable and nutrition was scarce. Mm-hmm. And now it's kind of the other way around. Nutrition is unavoidable or food is unavoidable.
Sure.
And people try to chisel out time in their schedule for exercise.
Yeah.
We have to work for that. So I think that's one of the big problems. So sometimes people just making that connection that eating less and feeling good helps, and then they're down the road and they don't need any more help. If they do, we have their nutritionist, and that's when we talk about things like the intermittent fasting, or there's a whole bunch of diets out there that we try to work with them on.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Can people exercise while they're doing their 6-week or 4-week or however long they decide time?
Yeah, so you want it to be low impact. Things like walking are fantastic. Heavy weightlifting, at least not for the first 2 to 3 weeks, just because the body's in a state of change, and we want you to get stabilized. And then once people are burning their ketones effectively for fuel, yeah, they can do that. You can exceed the capacity for the HCG to allow you to tap into your fat stores. So let's say someone started the diet, and 2 weeks in they were feeling good, and the ketone strips were changing, and they were burning ketones for fuel, and then then they started exercise, if they overdo it, those ketone strips will lighten up. It's almost like the body sort of says it's too much, and it goes back into that starvation mode that one might have gone into without the HCG in the beginning.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you find that this helps regulate people's hormones while they're doing it? Is there any kind of hormonal regulation benefit to doing an HCG type diet?
Yeah, it's also, any type of diet, especially where you're losing fat, I kind of consider a detox as well. So there is a lot of benefit to regulating the hormones. A lot of people, especially women from a hormonal standpoint, feel a lot better when they're doing the diet. We have women that want to be on HCG all the time. They just feel better with that in their system.
Sure.
So a lot of it has to do with, looking better is a big part of feeling better, and they start to lose weight and look better, and people generally feel much better on the diet.
Very cool.
You would just imagine that people would feel a lot better just being less heavy, less weight. I think a lot of people probably following this podcast know that I'm pregnant, and it's just like, holy crap, like, how does that 25 extra pounds, like, how can people live like this? It's nuts how different the body feels just with a weight change.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We always talk about the cost of obesity, as they say, to society, and it's always in terms of medical care and that sort of thing. But there's a real cost on an individual level to how you feel. I mean, if you think about it, when you feel good, you want to be more social. You want to go on vacation and enjoy yourself. You have more energy. I know periods in my life when I've been active and exercising on a regular regimen, and I'm a better father, I'm a better husband, I'm a better friend, all of those things. It's just, the power of the brain again gets in there, and when you're feeling good, you're doing good things and living a good life.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of cascading that has to do with that, just with feeling like I'm taking care of myself. And I think so many times, as parents or care providers, we always think about the other people around us first, but how good it feels when we take care of ourselves, how much more we can actually take care of others, or do the tasks we enjoy, or do the activities we enjoy, or, spend the time we want to spend with our spouse, or enjoy our vacation a lot more. And I think you brought it up beautifully, how we always think about the cost of things, whether it's obesity or poor health in terms of money. But in the end, it's really about, well, how is your life going? How are you feeling? And how are you able to live the way you want to live? And I think that's the real cost of not taking care of your health.
Now, do you find that the HCG diet works better in conjunction with the other offerings at your practice? And the reason why I'm curious is specifically what we talked about from almost a detox perspective with the ozone therapy. One thing that I've heard about fat loss is that sometimes it can be particularly difficult if the person has a lot of toxins stored in their fat, and then their body's saying, well, I don't want these back in my bloodstream, so I'm not going to burn this fat. So have you found any correlation with a higher success rate with the HCG when combined with something like ozone therapy?
Yes, it's true. A lot of the toxins are fat soluble, so your body, again, in interest of self-preservation, will keep some amount of fat to keep your body protected from those stores. So we do have some people that have done the HCG diet, and they'll have an area where the fat just seems to be extraordinarily stubborn, and doing a detox can often trigger that, and then they'll let go of that fat. So a lot of the things that we're doing there are helping with detox. Like you mentioned, the ozone, that's the great one. We have some different detox programs that we do. Mostly there's some sprays from a company called Results RNA that we use. They have 3 different ones that work really well together to detox different things. So yeah, that's a big part of it too.
Very neat.
What do you mean by a spray? What does that mean?
So it's well, they make a lot of different sprays, but for the detox, it's called Body Detox, and there's 3 different sprays, which you just spray in your mouth basically twice a day.
Okay. I was like, you mean like tanning spray? Like, are you putting it on your, your belly fat, or okay? So you put it in your mouth, you spray it in your mouth. Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, Dr. Seaman, if there's something that our audience, our listeners can do that you recommend for them to, start doing now to improve and help their health, their body thrive, what are some things that you would recommend them doing?
I think that just because of the stress that we're under today and the way society is so fast moving and there's so many demands on people, a lot of people think, I can get an extra 2 hours out of my day if I cut that out of my sleep. But that doesn't really play out in the long run. If you get that extra sleep, you're probably going to get more productivity out of the waking hours in the day. I think if there were a couple things that I could tell someone, it would probably be to eat a little less, move a little more, and then control your environment. And that would be things like, the air that you're breathing and the water and the food that you're eating, and of course the amount of stress that you're dealing with.
Sure. No, those are all good things, definitely. And then what things do you do on a regular basis to help your health thrive?
Well, yeah, like a lot of us, I'm guilty sometimes of not keeping that in the forefront. Sometimes, end up working too much, maybe not sleeping as much.
Sure.
Being a father of 4 young boys, that can have some demands too. So I'm one of these, I always like to try new things. The intermittent fasting is something I'll be starting in the new year. Awesome. And I just think that's fantastic, the benefits that offers.
Nice.
And then the exercise program is, I'm one to cut out personal things when work life and family life take over. But it's really important. Like I said, I'm a better father and a better husband when I'm doing those personal things. So.
Right on. Very cool. Very cool.
Well, I always like asking that question because the people we interview, you guys are busy, and I think so many times, like our clients or our listeners, they can relate with that because none of us have like this wide open schedule, like just try all the different eating styles, go to meditation 5 hours a day, and I'm sleeping 12 hours, obviously, and I get my hour workout in with my trainer every day, so I appreciate, your openness to try new things because in a busy lifestyle, it's difficult, and to keep it in your brain, I think is the most important thing,
right.
And not to forget about it,
Definitely. Now, how can our listeners connect with you? Maybe they're hearing this and they're like, I would love to try that HCG diet. How do they connect with you, connect with your office? How do they get on the schedule?
Yeah, so there's, our website is thrivemd.com. That's one way, or calling the front desk. The phone number there is 312-600-5070. Those would be two good ways. There's also some more information on the website about the various services, and I think there's some testimonials on there and that sort of thing.
Right on. We'll put all that in the show notes so our listeners can snag that info for sure. Well, the question that we enjoy wrapping up with is, what is your definition of health?
So yes, a good question. I guess, there are a lot of different definitions of health. Some people would view it as the absence of disease, but I guess I think it goes a lot further than that. I think it truly comes down to doing the best you can with what you have. We're all given a genetic code, and there might be some limitations in there, but like I said before, if you're 50, if you're 70, 80, you can always do the best you can in that space that you're in. And there's a big variety there for people. I know 80-year-olds on golf courses and 80-year-olds in nursing homes. So,
sure. Yeah.
Genetics, like I said, plays a role in that, but you can always do the best you can with what you have. And I think the goal should be to thrive, not just to get by or exist or survive. And there's a lot of stuff coming out that's going to help people to do that. It's a changing environment, the air and the water and everything. It's different than people had 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to adapt to really thrive in our new environment.
Yeah.
I have to comment on something you said. It's really cool and unique. And you said to do the best in the space where you are, meaning your age. And I think something that a lot of people forget is like your genetics. Some things we can't decide. But I was perusing social media and I saw this picture of two guys. They probably looked like they were about 60. And they both had their shirts lifted up. And one was, a guy with muscles, tan, smiling, looking good. And the other one was also smiling and happy, but he had this big, big belly, like bigger than a pregnant belly. And it said, same age, different choices. And I just thought, like, when you said that, I thought, it's so true. There are so many things that we can't control, but there are so many things that we can control. And one of those things, and most of those things are our choices. Right. And so I love that you said that because I was just like thinking about that this morning.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's interesting to try to convince people to work on their health, exercise, diet, those things that are important before they necessarily need to. It's like a retirement account. You don't start funding it the day before you want to retire.
Right.
So if a person makes exercise and nutrition and those things a part of their daily routine, it just seems to turn out a lot better in the long run.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Dr. Seaman, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really cool hearing the ins and outs of your practice. And, like I said, I've experienced in nutritional IVs, and I tell you what, anytime I start to feel a cold coming on, I've gone at different stages. So I've gone when I first started to feel the cold coming on, and that IV knocked it out. I went 3 days after the cold felt full blown, and I was like, okay, I may be starting to recover, but within 24 hours, that IV had knocked it out. And I've gone kind of preemptively thinking, all right, you know what? I have to fly the next 3 weekends in a row. I want to make sure I don't get sick, and I've done the IVs, and I've been solid. So experiencing that aspect of your office, I tell you what, if all the other things that you do at your office are as effective as that, I mean, it's no wonder that you're in the demand that you are, because it's just awesome. So thank you for sharing all that with us and spending your time with us.
Well, thank you guys very much.
Absolutely. Now, for our listeners, who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that needs to learn more about the offerings that Dr. Seaman offers at his office? Who needs to learn more about the HCG Diet? Who needs to learn more about the ozone? Share this episode with them so they can find out and so they can connect with Dr. Seaman at ThriveMD, ThriveMD.com. Go to iTunes while you're at it. Leave us a rating and review. We always appreciate it. It helps this information reach more people, and that means the world to us. It's the whole goal of this podcast venture that we're on. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.